It's time to take a look back at what we've been reading this July.
And we have to say it's definitely been an interesting roundup.
Yeah, one of these books really shook me up, so I can't wait to hear what you all think about it.
So let's go ahead and get started.
Our Catholic read-along book for the month was this one, Two Patients, My Conversion from Abortion to Life-Affirming Medicine by Dr. John Brukowski.
And this one has been on our TBR for quite a while, so we were excited to finally get to it. And we have to say, it is a very, very good book.
So the author grew up Catholic, but he fell away from the faith during college and medical school. And by the time he was a resident, he was a doctor who was just giving his patients whatever care they wanted, whatever was convenient for them.
But that all changed one day when he performed an abortion for a patient without doing a thorough medical history first. And she was further along in her pregnancy than he realized. So that resulted in the baby being born alive and weighing enough that he was obligated to call for emergency care.
The doctor who answered that emergency call and came to take care of the baby really called him out on this. She said, "John, you do realize, don't you, that you're treating two patients here, a mother and a child. You can do better than this."
So that led him down a road of conversion over the next several years and ultimately led him to open Tepeyac OBGYN, named in honor of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And it's a clinic that treats women who might otherwise not be able to afford good medical care.
So we love the story. It's truly fascinating. However, just a heads up, you probably have guessed this already, but some of it is very sad reading about the abortions he did perform.
And one of the things he said really stood out to us. He mentions how when he started his medical career, he just kind of wanted to blend in and go with the flow. He didn't want to ruffle any feathers and just kind of did whatever was asked of him.
That was truly a slippery slope for him, and you can see how over time he just gradually justified to himself performing more and more abortions, and his heart became harder and harder. And so we think that's a good reminder for all of us that we can become very numb to sin when we just try to go along with the flow and blend in with everyone.
And he's very candid and very humble about his story, which we really appreciated. And it could not have been easy for him to write this book. You can see the hand of God throughout all of this, and it is a great reminder that forgiveness and redemption is for everyone, and that God never gives up on us.
So we highly recommend this one. Every single life is precious, and change is always possible, even radical change. Our next book is by one of our favorite authors, T.M. Gowett, and it's this one, The Destiny of Sunshine Ranch, which we mentioned in this video. We said that we would do a thorough review in a coming video, so here we are.
And this one is the story of David and Martha Credence, who run a horse farm in New England and also care for a family of 10 foster children.
So the story is told mostly through the eyes of young Benedict, who arrives at the farm after he is removed from another foster home where the conditions are very much less than ideal.
And when Benny first gets there, it takes him months not to repack his clothes every day in case he has to leave suddenly. So the book really gives you an idea of how hard it can be for children in the foster care system.
But the book is also very hopeful because it does give you a good look at what a loving foster family can be like. The mother, Martha, says that she doesn't always agree with what the kids are wearing or what they're thinking when they arrive, but she's going to love them anyway, and she tells them that. And then in the background, she's always praying that they'll be healed from whatever traumas they've been through.
Now, as the story goes on, though, the family does fall on some hard times, and you see them really have to put their trust in God and in their Catholic faith. There's a lot going on, but it's all very interesting.
And it involves a lot of interesting people with different personalities, and they have to learn to get along. So we think this would be a great book to read and discuss with your older teenagers. There are some sad things that happen in this book, just a heads up, so you might want to screen it if you have sensitive readers at home.
And at the end of the book, there is a time jump, which we did wish the author had fleshed out a bit more. But overall, we did really enjoy it. Parenting is never easy, so we loved seeing how David and Martha supported each other and their family.
So we've read and loved many of this author's books down through the years, and we're pretty sure that this was her very first book that she ever had published. So wow, she started out strong and she's just gotten better and better.
And we are giving away a copy of this book, so if you'd like to be entered, then just leave us a comment on this video, which was our previous video, and we'll have that one linked for you.
During July, I also read a book on Catholic apologetics called The Catholic Defender by Catholic author Spencer Allen. And there was so much that I really enjoyed about this book. For instance, he starts every chapter with a real life story that puts the whole topic he's talking about into context. And I thought that was really helpful and I really appreciated that. I think the author has a unique perspective in writing this book. He brings a lot to the table because he's also a high school principal. So he's well familiar with real world scenarios, what people might say or do, and how you can answer them. Also, this author has a really good sense of humor, and that only makes the book even more enjoyable. So each chapter is fairly short and it deals with only one topic at a time. So there are two ways that you can use this book. You can read through it all at once, which is what I did, or you can just grab it and look up whatever question you have that you need an answer for right now. For instance, there's a chapter in this book about the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I so wish that I would have had this book before they showed up at my door a couple of months ago, and we had a very interesting conversation. As soon as I got this book, I went right to his chapter on the Jehovah's Witnesses and read it through a couple of times. So now I feel ready if they ever come back. Although honestly, after our last conversation, I don't think they're ever going to come back here. We're probably blacklisted. I really like how he presents his story and then the information, and then at the end of each chapter, there is a summary of the main points. As a catechist, I'm also really happy to have this book, and I know I'll be taking it to class with me in the fall because my students come up with the craziest questions sometimes, and I don't like having to pull out my phone during class. So again, I'm really happy to have this one. At first, I thought I might read this and then donate it to our church library, but now I'm thinking that I'm going to keep this one and I'll probably buy another one for the church library because I want to keep this on my shelf as a reference. My next book is the one that really shook me up, and it's this one, 100 Things We've Lost to the Internet by Pamela Paul. Recently at dinner with friends, we were talking about this very topic. So when I saw this in the library, I thought, oh, I'm going to check it out and read it because I would love to hear what she thinks. Okay, so there's good news and bad news about this book. We'll just get the bad news over with first. There is some bad language in this book. Not a lot, not too horrible, but it does come up every now and then, so heads up. Also, she does not capitalize the word God in this book. The word God only comes up a couple of different times, but really, also the book is very secular in places, so be aware of that if you read it. However, despite all these things, I did read it and I did enjoy it. The author is funny and also she makes some really good points. There are just a lot of things that we have lost to the internet and to cell phones. And until I sat down and read this book, I didn't realize how much we have lost. And it really kind of shook me up to realize that all these simple pleasures and joys are just gone. Now, don't get me wrong, the internet and cell phones, they have their own merits, but there are things that we've lost that we'll never get back. For instance, remember how exciting it used to be when the phone rang, how everyone would race to see who's on the phone, is it for me? Or the joy of seeing a flashing light on your answering machine because you knew that someone had called and left you a message. I'm also really sad that we've lost some bigger things, like how to be civil to each other. It used to be you could just disagree with someone and still have Thanksgiving dinner with them. It was fine. But nowadays you're unfriended or blocked or whatever, and it's just really sad that we can't even agree to disagree anymore. So I definitely don't want to sound like, that grumpy old lady back in my day, but I do think that there are pros and cons to the internet, and I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you're like me, if you're old and you grew up before the internet, what are some of the things you miss, and do you agree that we have lost at least 100 things? My last book is one for all of you history mystery lovers out there, and it's this one, The Bones of St. Peter by John Evangelist Walsh. It tells the story of all the secret excavations that were done under St. Peter's Basilica during World War II, and how a grave with the bones of St. Peter himself was discovered. So I first came across this story in this book, The Fisherman's Tomb by John O'Neill. So when I saw this book, I thought, heck yeah, I'll read this book. I'd love to know more about this story. So this book was printed originally in 1982. So it looks brand new, but it's really not. It's a reprint, but it does take a really deep dive. Like, this is the light version, and this one has all the fascinating details that are going to take you deeper into the story. So there's a lot I could say about it, but I know that you don't want me to ramble on all day. So I'm going to share two things that really struck me about the book. Okay, so the first one is that even though Pope Pius XII was very careful in excavating the tombs, like he wanted everything to be above board, by the book, very thorough, not everyone agreed with his approach. For example, there was a priest who every evening after the workers had gone home for the day, he would just take a stroll through the excavation site and he would just pull things out and remove them at random. And that did cause a lot of problems on down the road. It was a good reminder for me though that we really need to be team players. Maybe if I'm involved in a project, I might think that, oh, I know better than everyone else. I know the right way to do this. That might not necessarily be the case. There might be a lot going on behind the scenes that I don't know about, and sometimes I just need to stay in my lane. The second really cool thing about this book was all the work that archaeologist Maria Garducci did. She was a genius. She was the one who was able to decipher a lot of the graffiti around the gravesite to help authenticate that this was where Peter was buried. She went through all these Christian signs and symbols and figured out what they meant, and it's just so fascinating to read about. When she explains it all, you can really see how devout these people were and how they were truly, truly persecuted. The last thing I want to say is that when this book was written, it was not known that there was a Texas millionaire who secretly financed all this excavation work. That story is told in detail in this book. So if you really want the full scoop on how the grave of St. Peter was identified and how his bones were identified, then you really probably should read the two books together. So definitely this was a good read for me, and I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars.
All right, so that was a look at all of the books that we read in July.
It's been so hot here, so it's good just to stay inside and keep cool with a good book.
So as always, let us know down in the comments what you read in the month of July, or if you've read any of these, let us know your thoughts.
So thanks so much for joining us today. We hope you have a very blessed day, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.